Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Laili Musyarofah Nita Tesyana. My student number is 24 13 04 2066. Today, as part of my midterm examination for advanced speaking, I will be retelling a remarkable short story. A story about pride, deception, and the danger of trusting your own cleverness a little too much. The story is called Dusk, written by the brilliant British author H. Munro, better known by his pen name Saki. Night had not yet fully arrived, but daylight had long since gone. It was in that in-between hour that Norman Gortsby chose to sit on a park bench in Hyde Park, London, on a cold and quiet March evening. He was not a poor man. Money was not his problem. But there was something else, a subtle, more personal ambition that he had failed to achieve. And somehow that failure felt heavy at moments like this, when the world grew dim and indifferent. Gatsby watched the shadow stretch across the path before him. He observed the figure drifting through the park, hunched silhouettes who walked with their eyes slightly downcast, avoiding the gaze of others. This, he believed, was the hour of the David. People who had lost in life did not dare show themselves in the bright honesty of daylight. They waited for dusk, when the shadows were long enough to hide their shape. How ironic, he thought, that I'm here too. Beside him sat an elderly man. His face looked like a map of a long and exhausting journey. Not a pleasant one. His clothes were not red, but they clearly did not belong to someone whose life had gone well. The old man sat in silence, looking at nothing in particular. Then, without a word, he stood and walked away, perhaps returning to some small room where no one waited for him. The bench had barely grown cold when a young man took the same seat. He was completely different from the old man. This one seemed full of energy, but in a strange way, like a flame burning too eagerly in the warm place. He immediately struck up a conversation as though he and Crosby were old acquaintances. I hope I don't look too out of shirt, the young man said. I finally myself in rather embarrassing situation. Crosby did not respond warmly, but he did not leave either. He was curious and suspicious. The young man told his story. He had arrived in London from out of town. He was staying at a hotel whose name he had now unfortunately forgotten. That afternoon he had stepped out briefly to buy soap. Just so. But when he tried to return, he realized he could not remember the hotel's name and could not find the street, and worst of all, did not have enough money to stay anywhere else that night. I only need a small loan, the young man said, his voice carrying just the right amount of distress. One suffrage. I will repay you the moment I find my hotel tomorrow. Crosby listened to all of this with a blank expression. The story wasn't bad, even somewhat believable on the surface. But Crosby was a man who enjoyed picking things apart, and he found a fatal flaw. One question, said Crosby calmly. You say you went out to buy stuff? Where is it? The young man froze. He stretched his pocket, left, right, inside his jacket. Nothing. I I must have left it somewhere, he muttered. Or it never existed. Crosby replied coolly. The young man knew he was beaten. Without much argument, he stood and walked away, disappearing into the gathering dark. Crosby allowed himself a small, quiet smile. At least I'm not easily fooled. But then, just as he was about to rise from the bench, his eye caught something on the ground near his feet. A small wrapped package. He picked it up. So, Crosby went still. So the yeoman hadn't lied. He had quickly paused up and simply dropped it without noticing. A wave of guilt washed over him. He had judged an innocent man. He had turned away someone who truly needed help. Without another thought, he hurried along the park path, searching for the young man. He found him not far away, walking slowly with his head low. Crosby shot up, headed over the sword, averted a brief apology, and pressed one suffrage into the young man's hand. The young man accepted with a small, unreadable smile and walked away. Crosby returned to his bench with a complicated feeling, part relief, part embarrassment, and a small measure of pride that he had been man enough to admit his mistake. He sat down and took a slow breath. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. The elderly man, the one who had been sitting beside him before the young man arrived, had become back. He was crouching near the bench, running his withered hands along the ground, searching anxiously for something he had lost, searching for his missing cake of soap. The soap had belonged to the old man all along, not to the young stranger with his tale of a forgotten hotel. And the young man whom Gorsby had just a moment ago decided was honest had walked off into the night carrying on a suffragan and quite possibly a quiet laugh. Crosby sat motionless. The dust had happened over Hyde Park. He was now truly one of its own, another defeated figure belonging to the hour he had so confidently looked down upon.